YouTube friends, I'm Steve. It's an exciting day for me today. My batteries have arrived. I'm going to unbox them and show you what they look like. I'm going to show you how I intend to use them, and I'm probably going to get into a little bit about batteries on an off-grid situation. Let's get going.
Let's go downstairs now.
Don't bump it.
Whoa! Is that what the battery looks like? How many are in there? Well, that's a big battery. Then what is that battery for?
Okay, so there are 8 of these. I bought total 4 per box. They are, they're lithium ion phosphate, nominal 3.2 volts. High max voltage per cell is 3.65. Low voltage per cell is 2.5. We won't go that low. We'll go to probably up to about 3.6-ish and down to only 3 volts because we don't want to go down that far. It'll help them last longer for this application. We don't need that much power. They are 200 amp hours each. So when I put them together in a string of 4, that would make a 200 amp hour 12 volt battery, which is roughly about 4 kilowatts. I'll parallel the 8 together, so 2 sets of 4 parallel together. I'll parallel them in 2s and then put them together as series that way. And so I got all the batteries out now, lined them up all the same way. I'm going to put a voltmeter to them really quick to make sure the polarities are correct. I'll mark them with a pen really quick with a Sharpie just to make sure I don't ever mess it up. And check to see how close all their voltages are. Okay, 3.29, 3.30, 3.29, 3.29, 3.29, 3.30, 3.29, and 3.29. So they're all within 1/10 of a volt of each other, and all my negatives are across the back. And I'll just put a plus and a minus on them so that I don't ever get mixed up. Okay, next thing is I need to hook them up to some sort of a balancer. Typically they suggest using a BMS system. I am not going to use a BMS system because it's not necessarily needed. I know a lot of people are going to get mad at me for saying that. What I'm going to use instead is a balancer, and I'm going to top balance them and then make sure anything I have hooked up to the batteries will never take it below a certain voltage so that I can be sure that one individual cell will never be too low, and then I'll make sure I never overcharge it to a certain voltage to make sure I never overcharge any individual one cell. I will continuously leave this hooked up to it with an alarm on it so that if one of the cells does go over or get close to being over or under what it needs to be, it will set an alarm and I will hear that, and then I can come see what's going on. Before I hook it all up, I want to talk about really quick how many watts I have here. These are 200 amp hour cells at 3.2 volts a piece, so really rough estimates here. 3 volts times 200 amp hours, amps times volts is watts, so these are 600 watts a piece. I have 8 cells at 600 watts is roughly 4,800 watts or 4.8 kilowatts. So I'm going to call this a 5 kilowatt pack. It's hard to say exactly. I mean, it's probably not quite that much. It'd be closer if I'm going to use 80% of this, which is I'm probably going to cut it off at 12 volts instead of at 10.5. At 12 volts for the whole pack, it'll probably only be about 80%. So maybe it's like a 4 kilowatt pack of what I'm going to use of it. So 4 kilowatt hours sitting right here. Okay, so I was working on getting the batteries all hooked up here in series parallel to make a 12 volt battery. I've got all the series for all the parallels, and now I need to make all the series. I didn't have enough connectors, so I fabricated my own. You just start with some 1/2 inch copper tubing, then you flatten it in a vise, throw the bench vise, flattened it. Then I flattened it with a hammer, get it pretty thin there, and then I drilled the holes. So that's how they're going to work. I'm going to, I got them in series or in parallel here in 4P, and then I'm going to connect those in series to get 3 volts each up to 12 volts. And I'm going to take out all these batteries, these 2 batteries over here, and all of this is going to come out down here. I've already disconnected the solar panels. You can see we're bringing in 0 watts, so it's safe to disconnect the battery now. I will disconnect the battery. I will put the new battery down there, hook it up in series, and then connect it to the solar charger so I can adjust the settings for lithium, and then I'll work on hooking everything else back up. Okay, old batteries, lead acid batteries are out of place. I will now place the lithium batteries in there and then connect them up into one pack, and then connect the solar charger and program that to be lithium. Okay, the batteries are all connected now in series as well as parallel. They are only hand tightened. I still have to add the balancer. I'm going to add that next. I just want to check the voltage first. And we do have a 12 volt pack. It's at 13 volts, so it has some nominal charge right now. Okay. I'm going to hook up the balancer now and see if that works before I hook it up to the solar charge controller. Okay, it's been a couple hours. I have everything hooked up now. I have the balancer hooked up, and it's currently doing a balance as it charges. And currently 8 millivolts apart total, so it'll fix that slowly. I have the solar panels hooked up, currently only getting 140 watts. But since I've hooked it up, we've already gotten 365 watts total since I hooked up the solar panels to the charger. Okay, it's been a couple days since I installed the batteries. You can see we've done a total of 5.4 kilowatts. We've done a kilowatt already today. It's just after lunch, or just at lunch. We did over 2 kilowatts yesterday. Just depends. Here is the balancer. We can see that the batteries are 90% full. There's a 4 millivolt difference between all of them, and if I can get, it's been balancing for over 2 days now. Okay, it's been a couple days. We have done a total of 6.3 kilowatts. The batteries are at 86% currently. I have the solar charge controller set to disconnect at 13.88 volts, so it's actually going to do that soon. And then it will reconnect at 13.29, so that way I don't overcharge the batteries. Then all of my load is up here on this solar controller, which I'm not using it as a solar controller, I'm just using it as a disconnect. The red wire there comes down and connects to the battery with the clamps there, and the black and white wire are the load. And so when I click this, I can shut off all the power to the cabin just by doing that. So it's back on, and then it will automatically shut off. I've got it here set to shut off at 11.3. That's as high as I could put it on this one. I would have liked it to be up more around 12, but it'll shut off. It won't allow any load to go out at 11.3, and it'll reconnect at 13. It's a little high too, but we'll see how that works. I might have to get another one of those. They're really cheap. They're like $6, seriously, on Amazon. Usually they just get given away when you buy solar panels. I'll have to find one that has better parameters. Okay, so I guess as part of this video, I'm doing a creek update. So I'll video a couple different places of the creek to show you what it looks like right now. You can clearly see this is, of course, this is where our water inlet is. It's actually basically underneath this tree. But it's still, you can see there's ice underneath the water that's flowing right now. And our water inlet is frozen in that ice. So for a long time, the water was flowing underneath the ice as winter froze from the top down. And then eventually the whole creek froze, or really darn close to it. And it obviously froze our inlet pipe in it. And now, since stuff has been melting, the creek has been flowing on top of the ice, which is slowly melting it some more. But I'll show a couple different areas of the creek here and what it's looking like at the moment. So down there is where our culvert is. You can hear the water running through the culvert, which is actually a really good sign for us right now. About right here, and then runs over to there, and you can see it's flowing over there. I'll go around it. So it is flowing pretty good now. But it'll be a bit. A couple days and it's supposed to get up to 50. It's over 40 right now actually, or just at 40. But you can see all this water is still sitting on top of the ice. So there's ice underneath the water that's flowing right now, and that's where my, down there of course, you know, over by the cabin down there is where my water inlet is, and it's still frozen in ice, and the creek is basically flowing above it right now. But it'll come.
Outside enjoying the nice property today, and Caleb got inventive. We now have a horse on our property. Okay, Caleb, you made a horse here, and you got stirrups
And this thing to hang on.
and a thing to hang on. And what is your horse's name?
Speed.
Speed. All right, let's see Speed go.
Shout.
Okay, so the sun has been out all day. It's been above 40 today, and we have finally gotten some melt off coming down pretty good, and it has backed this up and just flowing over the top, no big deal. And it'll probably do this all night long, and then if it gets below freezing, it'll freeze tonight and then melt again. And it's about 4 o'clock at night right now, 4:30. Sun's starting to get low. But this is what I designed this bridge here to do, or this culvert to do when it overflowed, was just to flow over nice and easy. You know, so I made it really wide here. You can still technically drive on it. Okay, so I've had the battery pack installed for about a week now. Currently the battery voltage is full, and so it's holding at 13.91 volts there on the right, and it is slowly decreasing the power. I mean, we were just 2 minutes ago we were getting over 300 watts. So it's and that's how much it took today to fill up. That's about how much we're using. It's how much we used last night, and since the sun went down. Obviously we'll use some all day long, so we've been using quite a bit less than a kilowatt a day. You can see it took a couple kilowatts to get the battery from about half full to all the way full, and then it's been just under a kilowatt a day. So it's been, you know, 7 days, I think, six or 7 days. Here's the battery pack, and here's the balancer. You can see the balancer says we're 92% full. I'm not taking the voltage all the way up. The pack voltage is at 13.9, 94, 92, something like that. I'm trying to keep the pack voltage down just a little bit because I don't want to overcharge it. And I'm using the balancer right now to top balance. It'll take a long time to top balance. Okay, water pipes are still frozen. It's been about a week and a day or two since I put the new battery pack in upstairs in the cabin. You can see we still have ice everywhere, but the battery bank up there is full, and I kind of showed that. The charger automatically drops down the amperage once the battery gets full, and so inevitably then what happens if you're an off-grid system is eventually your battery bank gets full, and all of a sudden you start feeling like you're wasting solar power because you're only using 10% of your total watts that you have on your solar panels, and your batteries are just sitting there full. And of course, as you go through the day, anything that you use, like we're charging batteries inside right now, and the boys might be watching TV, or patients might be using the laptop, and all that stuff will be plugged in, and you know the charger will increase the amperage that it's putting out to match that usage. But we're still, you know, really not using hardly any of the power. So one of the solutions, and I'm walking up here towards my other powerhouse, one of the solutions then to feeling like you're using more of that power is to have a bigger battery. And for us, the bigger battery that we have is in the form of my car. I do have it's technically a hybrid car, but it's an electric hybrid car. And to my knowledge, it's still the only car out there that's actually an electric hybrid car. In other words, it is electric drive, but it has a gasoline motor in it to charge it. And here it is. Here's my BMW 2014 i3, and it has an 18 kilowatt battery inside of it. And so whenever we get to the situation where our batteries are full up here, I begin to plug it in. Now I can't charge it very fast because even at the level 1 charging that I'm using right now, which is just 110 volt or 120 voltage, level 1 charging, the fastest it can go is 1500 watts. If I did 1500 watts on here, I would drain my battery pretty fast. I would have my battery dead in about 2 or 3 hours. You can see right now these solar panels up here are bringing in 600 watts. And the charger there on the car, well, 6.8 amps at 120 volts, you know, that's like 800 watts. So technically right now I'm using about 800 watts for the charger on the car because I have it set to low. I have the charger set to low in the car, and I'm gathering 600 watts from the panels. And so I'm using about 200 watts an hour on my batteries, and I should be able to charge for 3 or 4 hours that way easily. Well, the sun's up here, and then just as the sun gets, you know, I got a tree over here, so just as the sun gets, you know, over here somewhere, I will stop charging and give the solar panels, you know, about an hour to top off the batteries again. We won't quite top them off, but it'll be plenty to get to till tomorrow. And then tomorrow when the sun comes out, I'll wait for it to fill the batteries again until it's floating, and then I might plug this in again if I have lots of sun. So this is one of the ways that we try to mitigate feeling like we're not using the solar panels that we have, is we plug it into our car, and then obviously we go drive the car and use it. Now this doesn't really save very much money. Obviously I can only get, you know, at 600 watts of charging for 4 hours a day. You know, right now in the middle of summer I can get like 6 or 7 hours of charging, but so let's just say it's an average of 5 hours a day. That's only 3 kilowatts a day, and I get about 5 miles per kilowatt, so that's 15 miles, and that's only 15 miles is less than half a tank of gas. So let's just figure $1. So I'm making $1 a day any day that I can do this. Now that's not every day I can do this. When it's cloudy, I can't charge my car, and in the middle of winter I can't charge the car because we need to save all the battery we can to run this stuff down to the cabin. So it's not that many days out of the year, you know, maybe $100, you know, 100 days of the year I can actually do this if I'm here and willing to do it. So it's $100. Take a while to pay off these solar panels. Probably take about 10 years to pay them off at that rate, but it is some way to use the extra solar that we don't need once we're full on batteries, and so it is a nice solution. Eventually I'd love to get an electric truck. I think Ford's talking about coming out with an all electric truck. I would love it if they came out with a version that was just like this, where it was an electric drive truck with a gasoline backup. You know, kind of the reverse. They have a hybrid already where it's gasoline drive, but it also will run electric motors to assist. I'd love it where it's just an electric drive with a gasoline backup, that kind of hybrid. So it's technically an electric truck with a backup generator inside of it. That would be perfect for us, because then we could totally use it as an electric vehicle full time, unless it was in a case of emergency or an extraordinary situation where we need to run the generator. And at that point, then we could even use that vehicle to charge up the batteries and run our cabin. I know they were having issues down in Texas, and there were stories about people using their hybrids to do that. Which is a great way to use the hybrid, because it will use up the battery first and then turn on the generator. The engine in the truck, you know, the engine that it uses to drive the truck with it is actually used to charge that battery, and it's a pretty big, I think it's around 7 kilowatt charger, so that's pretty good. You can run your whole house off of that, and then once that battery gets full again, if you're leave it plugged into your house, the engine will shut off automatically. So that's that Ford hybrid is a great situation, or a great solution to someone that wants to be prepared for situations like this. If you buy that Ford hybrid, you're pretty well set. I don't got a whole lot else to say about batteries. If you have questions, ask. There's lots of things I could say about batteries, but everyone's unique about what they think about batteries and what they want to hear. Obviously, my statement would be go with lithium iron phosphate. Don't go with the lithium ion, the single cells, those little 18650s that Tesla makes their car out of, and that is in your laptop batteries and stuff like that. They do have the potential to start on fire, and so you need to have BMSs on those and have all of those batteries monitored very closely to mitigate some of that risk. But inside of a house, inside of my all-wood cabin, I'm not going to put anything in there that can potentially start on fire. It has a moderate risk of that. The iron phosphate have basically no risk of that. The lead acid actually have a little bit more risk of that than the iron phosphate. So, and they're acidic inside there. So that's why I really wanted to get the lead acid out of there. Those two batteries are out. I will eventually be adding them to this battery bank, the lead acid batteries that I do have. I will be adding them to this battery bank down in there. But I think before I do that, I will be moving that battery bank, because I think I'm going to eventually build a shop down there by the cabin, and I'd love to store the batteries down there. So this is my BMW i3. If anybody has questions about the i3, go ahead and ask. I might do a review on it eventually. I have had it for about 3 years now, and I think I've put 50,000 miles on it already. So coming up on the 8-year warranty check for the battery. It's 100,000 miles or 8 years. If the battery loses too much capacity in there, they will replace it for free. I think it's fine. But I'll be paying attention to that as we get closer to that, because we're coming up real close on that. But for now, that's that.